Hey, good afternoon, YouTube. We are bringing live breaking coverage to you once again. Live coverage of me having lunch, such as it is. Give this a minute to warm up. Just checking in with everybody, seeing what's going on, how everybody's doing. Hope everybody's avoiding the fear mongering and the hype train out there. It's hard to say. Everybody gets stuck in the fear-induced rut, it seems like. But the update here, we finally got some winners showing back up. So, like, hey, that's good. We went through January. I believe it was either the only January on record with no precipitation, or the driest January on record, one or the other. I don't think we had any precipitation. I don't remember having any clouds over the sky in January. January was bone dry. So we finally got a storm coming through today. Not even like a real storm, just weather coming through. It's not terribly effective, just blowing snow, and it's get a little snow in the mountains, but just something to break up the monotony of the spring we were having in January, which is good. Hopefully we get some trend setting here and we get some more snow off and on through the next couple of weeks to help ease the pain that January induced on us after the record-setting December. So that's the situation on our front, you know. So what's up, Red? Doomsday is here, right? And that's one of the big things out there, right? The whole Ukraine situation, World War III, it's going to plunge Europe into this big war. And apparently the visuals out of Ukraine, everybody just going about their daily business without a care in the world. There's a couple different angles on this, right? But really, depending on, there's such a different ways to look at it. I'm in the camp now that the way I view the world, the world leaders, quote unquote, right? Air quotations over world leaders. It's a big club, right? They may not all agree on everything, but the only thing they disagree about is how the laundry gets folded and which way the edges face, if that makes sense. Which way you fold your towels and which way the edges face in the cupboard or whatever. They disagree on the details of how everything falls in place. They're all in the same big club. I was thinking about doing a video on this and just don't have the time to put it all together. A coherent thought. I can do a rambling thought pretty well. A coherent thought's harder. But my rambling thoughts were, when was the last time a world leader was taken out by another, opposition, right? It's been a long time, right? Taken out being like in a war, opposing sides, and the other leader was removed, taken out. Big time leader. Not talking about Saddam and small level guys. Those guys are on the outside looking in, right? I mean, rumor is Hitler was still alive. They didn't even take him out, right? Mao and Stalin were allowed to continue until they died, basically in office. What's the real opposition between these groups of people, right? They all just kind of disagree on the semantics and how everything gets executed. As long as they got control over their little piece of the pie, they go along to get along, right? That's the trend. The last 100 years, we'll say. Napoleon was deposed and put on an island. Was Napoleon like really the last leader that was like treated harshly by the opposing side when they were defeated? The Romanovs, the communists, killed the Russian dictator. So, the Russian king was killed by the communists. So that may have been the last one where really somebody was taken out. How much did they really oppose each other was just my rambling thought. And just to kind of put that in perspective of this Putin thing is like, nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing's going to happen to the leader of the Ukraine. He might lose his position, if maybe. I don't know. It just seems more like they're just pushing back and forth to gain control and not actually just using minions against each other to maintain their control. Hey, Alicia, how's it going? Claudia, what is up? We need snow in Utah. Yeah, hopefully this comes your way, Alicia. It's blowing through, right? Hopefully. What's up, Tony? The check-in is complete. Uncle Al, what's up, Die Bullfrog? And Steve, what's going on, Corsair? Red says Russia just made us look like fools and they destroy all their computers at the embassy. Right? They totally bugged out. Well, there's the whole put that tinfoil hat on, Red. They were just doing that to cover up Hunter Biden's misdeeds in the Ukraine and all the deals he made for Joe years ago. That's the conspiracy. They used that as a cover up to destroy all those records that were held at the embassy and all those dealings that were going on over there. So that's another conspiracy. They're just using that as an opportunity to cover their tracks, you know? Hey, what's up? Wake up, Canucks. Speaking of Canucks, right? That's the other big story. Uh, Trudeau basically assuming the powers of a dictator and not really getting much support other than from the real establishment, right? From what I've heard, several provinces have basically said his emergency powers are null and void. They don't recognize them. So there's some conflict there. The Ontario police chief resigns, which kind of concerns me because if there's one person that could have inserted himself in the middle of everything and kept it peaceful, would have been him. Like, lead the police force into doing the right thing. Don't resign, was kind of my thought. But maybe he's on the verge of getting fired. Make him fire you. This is kind of the way I view that. Like, why would you resign? Go out there and lead the police force into doing the right thing. So it's kind of a questioning that resignation there. I see it kind of as saving his own skin more so than doing the right thing for the truckers, if you know what I'm saying. Because if you want to do the right thing by the truckers, you stay there in place, keep the police force in check and within their policing powers for maintaining peace and order, which was pretty much, maintaining a peaceful protest. But yeah, Canadistan is looking interesting as they seize assets and shut down bank accounts and shut down, control the insurance that's placed on a lot of these trucks and stuff. Like, it's a huge manpower event. Like, yeah, he says he's going to do it, but they have to actually have the people on the ground document the trucks, document who's there. They say they're going to seize the assets of the companies that these truckers work for as well. So that's a lot of bureaucracy in place to get that done. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's going to take time. So it's not like it's instantaneous, and they're all of a sudden, without any funding or anything. But that's escalation for sure. Like, you push somebody in a corner and take away their means to feed their family and their means to, feed themselves. Like, what kind of response do you expect then, after being told? Obviously, and a lot of the provinces backed off of their mandates that they were looking to put in place already, but Trudeau doubled down, going the opposite direction, showing a full hand of a dictator. Yeah, it's t-shirt weather. Yeah, right. Yeah, they finally got some winter weather rolling in, fortunately. Resigned and collected severance pay, right? Yeah, and onto the pension, covered his tracks. It really seemed like he's looking out for himself and not really interested in the truckers and the protests and all the issues with mandates and the freedom, So, but some people it's definitely raised the eyebrows. And the worst thing about it is now they're going to get somebody in there who's a diehard, full force, put down the insurrection type person, right? Which is even more concerning. But yeah, hope everybody's enjoying their winter elsewhere. It's definitely dry out here in the West for the most part. We need more snow, like Alicia said. So Ukraine, Russia, Canada, what else is going on? We've been short on natural disasters lately. I haven't noticed any earthquakes or volcanoes going off the last couple weeks. One thing I was going to comment on was can't remember who it was. I was watching a video and they were talking about why did prepper channels all of a sudden become current events channels. And I think there's some validity to covering current events. I mean, that's what a lot of us do anyway. And the biggest impetus is because they're important to why you do what you do, right? If you're going to induce others to do the things, right, to go out and do all the things necessary and just take even a little mild interest in being prepared for the smallest things, you cover current events and showing the why, you know. I don't know, it seemed like a disingenuous prod at some of the big prepper channels. Like, yeah, they're covering current events, trying to get people to think, hopefully. Now, I don't know how they're covering current events. I don't know if they're using it as fear mongering or whatever, but generally you point at it and go, hey, look, this is what's going on. Like, look, Canada's seizing assets and seizing people's stuff in the bank. Get your money out of the bank, put it in hard assets, something that's fairly liquid, fairly movable, something like maybe gold and silver, maybe. You know, don't trust this digital stuff that exists in never ever land that can be easily seized without your control. As we've said for a long time, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? Keep the bare minimum in the banks to just pay the bills, as people have said for a long time. Hey, what's up, Gray Note? How you doing? Fellow list joiners, right? If you're not on the list, you're not trying very hard, are you? Whoa. Having a lunchtime accident here. Was that Guns Coast to Coast join us? What? Thanks, Guns. Who are you talking to, Alicia? Did I miss Guns showing up? The Coast to Coast one? I don't see him. I must have missed something. But yeah, you gotta still point out to people like, hey, here's the reason you've been doing what you're doing, and to encourage them to think be like-minded, right? Is to point out those current events. I think it was somebody giving Southern Prepper 1 a hard time because all of a sudden he got really hardcore into Ukraine and Russia and everything else. It may have been even on a group chat. It may not have been on YouTube. I can't remember. Where you been, Red? You never seen Alicia? Okay, is Guns Coast to Coast in the chat? Because I'm not seeing his comments. Is he being cut out for some reason? Because that's the second. There's an @ from Grey Note. That's weird. Wouldn't be the first time YouTube blocked somebody on a chat, though, and nobody knew about it until it was too late. We've had that happen in the past, for sure. Looks like we've got a resident of Eastern Europe or the Russian bloc in the chat as well. Not sure what that means. If anybody can translate, have at it. So yeah, the Russian-Ukraine situation, half of me thinks it's Putin's gonna have the advantage regardless, but then the other half is like they're all in the same club anyway, and they're not. They're just dividing up the spoils as pre-planned, and just making each other look good. Because there's stories out now that this shows how strong Biden is if Putin backs down, but if Putin gets some negotiation and gets some kind of oil and gas concessions, something along those lines, or access to Sevastopol through the Crimea or something, some better access that avoids a war, he wins too. So it just depends how it plays out. Is ultimately, as we said a long time ago, a lot of this started when the European Central Bank tried to undermine the Ukraine's sovereignty, and Russia kind of pushed back. You know, that was 2017 or whatever. So this is just a continuation of that conflict, and Putin's kind of playing his card of we'll go to guns if we have to on this. He's not just going to let the EU slide into Ukraine and benefit and take all the resources and stuff out of there. Hey Mule, what is going on? V Borg is joining us. What's up, V Borg? Guns was up there. All right, having a hard time seeing certain people. Go figure. Trying to remember the last time I was on somebody had a chat that I was on. It's been a while. I guess I was on Red's chat last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that. Red does his late in the afternoon chat. Well, it's in the afternoon here. I think it's evening for him. You know, it's still daylight. Just as we're wrapping up work, Red's chatting. He always does something good with his homies. The Maverick Mafia's got to get back together, Red. You guys are ready. Yeah, I didn't realize you read on Bizza Rizza Gizza, that guy. I've been seeing him in your chat for years, right? He's been in your chat and Scotsman's chats and stuff for years. Seen him around. Had no idea he had a channel here. He was putting out all kinds of. He's doing basically full-length feature films, and books on his channel. I was like, that's good stuff. So I went over and subscribed. I was like, that just blew my mind how big, YouTube is just expansive, and you just all these years and still miss good content out there. So make sure you go check out channels that you don't know who they are. Just don't dismiss them as just as a commenter all the time. Well, I guess back then more so it was more likely somebody was doing content, but I just never got around to checking him out. But he's got a lot of good videos. I've got to go check out. I'm still on his Carrington Chronicles. I finished the first series that he did back in like the EMP one that he did back in 2018 or whatever. That was pretty good. But it's good listening, checking out. So if you don't know Bizza Gizza, which I don't know if I can spell it, but that's kind of what everybody calls him, BZA, RZA, GZA, go check that channel out. You got a lot of collapse, points to ponder, points to think about. It's not like it's the real scenario, the real deal, but it's like, hey, this could how it play out. This is how he approaches this scenario. The first scenario, like I commented on about halfway through, is like, this is totally like the worst case, as bad as it could possibly get. And I won't ruin it if you haven't seen it. But it's basically 31 episodes that he's got on there. But about halfway through, I'm like, it doesn't get any worse than this. He's put all these different things all in there in the scenario. It's like, yeah, this is as bad as it gets. Like if we get to this, it's really gone bad for us, and really we have it's going to be a rough time, as he explains and further as he goes into the description of the event. But just makes you think about all the different scenarios, and again, thinking about that worst of the worst case. Like whatever you've thought about worst of the worst case, it can always get worse, right? There you go, Red. Red spells it out for you. Yeah, that's just the situation of that in that story that he put out there, and it's just man, how would you handle that? Like all these different compounding factors on top of each other, just it almost make you want to give up. But obviously, just like he does in the story, you don't give up, and you continue to press on and move on. Yeah, of course, Mule, you're on. You sub to everybody. Yeah, he was in the Dragon too, right, Mule? Yeah, I mean, he goes way back. I just never realized he did content. It was such a weird name. I was like, who's this guy? Kind of It's kind of a, just one of those random things people choose just to have a channel to comment. It seemed like, didn't, but he's got solid content out there. Hey, what's up, Wes S? I don't know what you missed. You probably didn't miss anything unless Ukraine got invaded in the last 5 minutes, Wes. Yeah, Reddy does seem like good people there. You're right. So, Stefan, what's up, Stefan? How's things across the pond? Yeah, Wes, you should make videos, right? That's what I say. I should make videos too sometime. Need to get on that. Speaking of getting on that, it's garden planting time, right? A little behind in my garden planting. Got to get some seeds started to get so they're ready to get in the ground when it gets warm. Oh, Bizza Rizza Giz is a Wu-Tang reference? I didn't know that. That's probably why I was out of the loop. I never was into Wu-Tang. Red's question, would that have a zombie apocalypse or World War III? Wow, that's pretty tough there. There, Red, a tough question. I mean, with zombie apocalypse, you're just, one step away from being, infected yourself, right? If it's an infection scenario, right? Um, but World War III scenario, you're on the verge of getting vaporized, depending on where you're located. Um, I think where I'm at right now in a situation like World War III would be a better scenario, like a higher chances of survivability where I'm at right now in my situation. Because as we've seen with the last 2 years, like the spread of a virus that is difficult to contain, depending on how it's spread. Are these 28 days later zombies, or are these Walking Dead zombies? There's different level, or World War Z. World War Z zombies are that's next level. Like you can't even outrun that. That's even a more difficult situation. So it depends on the level of zombie apocalypse too, I guess. But World War III, I think, is more survivable in my situation. Now, everybody's different, and your location is different. Um, I think the biggest thing it's missing in a lot of zombie movies is the total meltdown of all the infrastructure and like nuclear power plants and the issues they have. The Walking Dead kind of addressed this. Not The Walking Dead, but when they did the spinoff of the Fear the Walking Dead, they kind of addressed nuclear power plants. Started to in that show, but all up and down the East Coast, all those nuclear power plants would just lay waste to the environment. You know, if they melted down, I guess it would depend on if the staff was well trained enough to maintain them for a period of time until they either starved inside their plants, or if they had enough survivability in there to maintain the plant's integrity till it could cool off the core enough to where it could be placed in, basically mute them, I guess. Don't Mule doesn't make real videos. Oh, they've got all your old stuff, Mule. They'll just use that against you. uh, hey, what's up, Chance? What's going on? Things were hot in Paris, says Stefan. Things are going hot. Yeah, you don't hear much about what's going on in Europe lately, other than everybody, gearing up for Russia. You don't hear about all the other anti-mandate stuff. Although you can find stuff on social media, but nothing in the regular news, right? Like Brussels and all the other countries anti-mandate rallies and stuff, but nothing on the news, the mainstream, as they say. Shaun of the Dead Zombies, says Corsair. Red October Walking Dead zombies. Red October says you can rebuild government versus World War III, nothing changes. Are you saying in the World War III scenario, nothing changes in the after the outcome? You don't think World War III would be devastating enough to basically have a rebuilding scenario there, Red? Are you saying the governments would still be able to control vast swaths of the countryside after World War III? Veronica was redacted by Mule. Uh-oh. I missed that. Got the band hammer. Mule team brings out the wrench. Huh? That hasn't happened in a long time. Must have been interesting. Hey, there's Guns Coast to Coast. What's up? But I think you can see when I mean, because really in most World War III scenarios, I think you're going to end up in a similar minimum, population reduction to the point where it's going to be back to small communities and where you're going to be rebuilding, like in The Walking Dead and this new universe that they're exploring, where there's these people exerting power as an organized government. Some places are going to organize, more effectively than others, or maintain their technology more than others. World War III government can stay in bunkers and come out when it's all done. Yeah, Red, I don't think it's going to be that effective. I think there's enough firepower, and however it gets kicked off, there's going to be some surprise element, and there's enough sabotage and other things, because you can only fit so many people in Cheyenne Mountain and in Mount Weather. There's only so much you can do to try to preserve continuity of government, that and you're only going to control small segments. When people lose communication, people are going to go rogue, and not even rogue necessarily, but just take the initiative to implement, what's needed in their area. And whether that seems to be, military dictatorship in certain areas, or, whatever, I don't think you're going to have a 50 state union come out of a World War III scenario, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? There's just not going to be enough communication left over. There's going to be too many grid down, communications down situations to where everybody's going to be doing their own thing for survival. And I talked about that book Mongol Moon a while back that I was reading. It's a World War III scenario that goes through a scenario of, and it kind of leaves you hanging, because there's supposed to be a sequel to it, but it's going to be like that. It's going to be everybody taking initiative to do what they think they need to do, especially on the military government side, to not necessarily provide continuity of government, but to do the things that they think are necessary to maintain survival, right? Oh, Chipper, what's up, Chipper? What did you miss? No, the bat signal's not up. Whatever, not up. Yeah, chances it's going to be ugly, no matter what, right? And there's just different ways it could play out depending on where you are. And again, I think it'll be segmented no matter what it is. I don't think the government continuity plan is not as robust as I think you think it is, Red. I just don't think it's as robust as you think it is at all. It's kind of like Jericho. There's a reason Jericho was taken off the air, but the continuity government plans I don't even think are as strong as that movie let on. Just based on military experience, and kind of seeing that side of it. But that book Mongol Moon kind of lays out some scenarios of government and military response things that might happen. And in the World War III scenario, really, it depends on how much infiltration we have, how much sabotage we have, because the speculation is there's tons of sleeper agents in the U.S., right? When sleeper agents get activated, do they do what they're supposed to do, or do they be like, I love this place is awesome, I don't want to, do the things I'm being told to do? How many of those turn when instructed to do their business, right? So, yeah, well, that's going to be the end of lunch, fellas. I got to get going. It's been good to see y'all. Check in on Alicia's travel videos when she's not skiing. and Guns Coast to Coast rant and raving videos telling you about how it should be. Yeah, Red, I think a lot of us do want to rebuild, um, but I think you can only affect a certain area too. And at some point, you just got to affect what you can affect in your area, especially a rebuild scenario. Make the area as big as possible, as good as possible, but not expect you're going to be able to put the whole 50 back together the way it was. I think it's what's the word for it? It's not realistic to expect to put the 50 back together, I don't think, in a rebuild scenario. And it won't be necessary either. I don't it'll be the challenges because we already know that things aren't unified. There's not enough unification to for people to want to do that voluntarily, you know. But all right, Chance, we'll see you on the other side. Yeah, the other side of the mushroom cloud, right? Adios, sayonara, guten tag. Y'all have a good day. Prep hard, live free.